Hello, this is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited for you to meet today's guest. She is, I'm going to read her bio here, but I also want you guys to know she's been my coach as well. So, Amy English is a certified food and body confidence coach with a specialty in emotional eating. I know I can hear a lot of you going, oh, raising your hand, right? Drawing on her personal journey and training, she guides women towards finding peace with their bodies and creating a healthy relationship with food. Through their work, her clients build a deep understanding of how food has played a significant role in their lives and how they can use this knowledge to let the weight go for good. From an early age, Amy struggled with binge eating and a negative body image. She started dieting when she was a preteen, having varying levels of success. Over the decades, she would ride the diet roller coaster, having weight loss success with restrictive dieting and then gaining weight when the diet ended. Sound familiar, ladies? After reaching a point of despair in 2015, realizing none of the diets, supplements, or programs available taught sustainable weight loss, Amy sought help to resolve the unhealthy relationship with food and her body. Through this work, she discovered the key missing in all of the diet programs, learning how to work with her body and the emotional triggers which prevent long-term success. Amy has made it her mission to help the millions of women, who include me, who struggle with similar challenges around food and body image. Through her coaching program, Fat to Fierce, women are finding their root causes of emotional overeating, ditching the diet drama, and learning how to reclaim the love for their bodies and lives. Oh, Amy. Oh,
Whew,
so
I
happy
could
you're
cry
here.
hearing that.
Oh, I'm almost tearful.
I
I am.
know.
Actually, I'm a little my eyes are very watery and yours are because
Yeah,
we've been on this journey for years. We've been connected for
decades.
years and
Hmm.
decades of this journey. And
Yeah,
I think we're both feeling like just reading that, it reminds us of the underlying pain that so many of us have with why does it have to be, this struggle? And
yes.
so I would love for you to share with us, I can read the bio and I can explain about the struggle, but I would love for you to hear it, in your own words and how this has evolved to where you are now and how you help. What does that involved when we start thinking about the emotional eating? Because I think we've all had those moments where we sat down and ate, well, more than once
Yeah,
for
yeah,
just in everyday life, right? So I would love to hear your journey and share with the listeners and myself more of
yeah. Oh
that.
my gosh. Thank you, Debbie, for having me on this today. Because I'm always excited to talk about it. And it's been a journey. And it's really interesting because last night I just realized this. I was going through some old journals to see like how this journey has progressed. And I was reading them and I was actually reading them out loud. And I was just kind of blown away in that moment, like, wow, the way I used to think about food and the way that I used to think about my body. And this is I might get on a little bit of a rant. So just stop me if you want, but I just keep thinking to myself, this is where the weight loss industry has it so backwards, because it's like, oh, eat this, don't eat that, eat in between these times, count these macros, count these points, count these calories. Everything is so focused on teaching people what to eat, when to eat, how to eat. And here's the whole dilemma. When you have been struggling with food in your body for decades, because most of the people who work with me were put on some sort of a diet at a very early age in life. So
Mm,
food restriction became a thing as a kid, as it was with me, right?
mhm.
And so food instantly started to become a problem. And these diets that are out there, and listen, you go on Facebook and by 9 a.m., you'll see like 12 different ads for like the latest trick and the latest magic potion and the latest thing to do to shed the pounds, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But until you resolve the habits with food and the triggers that keep you going to those same foods over and over and over again and completely losing control, until you resolve that piece and understand that piece about yourself, the cycle just keeps going. And so this is what I mean when I say the weight loss industry has it backwards. And by the way, that might be intentional because it keeps you spending your money on more and more things. My whole goal and the whole reason I decided to take one of the most painful experiences of my life and turn it into a business is because I figured it out. I figured out the secret. Self-confidence with food, your body, yourself, and the scale first. Do that first, then do whatever you want after that. But figure that piece out first so that you have the confidence in yourself so that you can like nip that cycle, right? And stop the drama, like we were just talking about a little bit ago, right? Stop the drama.
Yeah.
And know that you, like, really, it's like about knowing that you have your own back.
Oh.
Ooh.
Do we have our own back?
Right.
You know, what I always find interesting too is that I wasn't a child myself with a weight problem. As far as, being overweight, I was underweight. I mean, I was just thin, probably normal, right? Quotations, normal. But as a preteen, you know what I did? I didn't really eat.
Yeah.
Through high school. I can remember counting how many days I could go without eating. I could go 3 days in high school without eating, except when I played sports. When I played sports, I had to eat every day because I would get so lightheaded, right? But I was so obsessed. I was obsessed with what food. Like it was this reward or recognition of, oh, you did well. And so I know there's a lot of people who might look thin right now who gained 5 pounds and they think the world is ending, right? Like it's the same thing, whether it's physically showing, it's inside of us. The struggle of the food, the emotional eating, the binging, so you said you took one of the most painful parts of your life because I wasn't overweight young, but as soon as I become an adult, it has been this cycle, and I'm now in my 50s, and my early 50s is when I'm thinking to myself, when I reached out to you after being in your Facebook group for quite some time, and I'm like, this has got to end.
So it's interesting too, because as I'm listening to you, when I look at pictures of myself, like when I was first put on a diet at 11 years old, 10, 11 years old, something like that, I wasn't overweight either. I was just bigger than the average stick thin kid, right? I developed very early. So I started to get curves at an early age, and that was just really frowned upon in society. Oh, I mean, let's face it, there's still issues, but especially when you think about like the early 80s, right? Mid 80s, that would have been mid 80s. Like that was, that was not cool. That was not good. Like, and I got teased and bullied so much about my body that the only sensible solution seemed to be, well, let's have her lose weight. And like when I think about that and the years that I've struggled beyond that, like it breaks my heart now to hear a parent talking about wanting to put their child on a diet. And listen, I know that there's medical reasons and things like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the average parent who's like, oh, so and so is getting a little chunky, better kind of start to take control and change the. They don't realize the impact, the long-term impact that behavior is going to have over the decades. Not only by starting with food restriction at an early age, but teaching their child that there's something wrong with their body, because guess what? That stays with a kid. And it continues over and over and over. And I'm getting emotional. It stays with us. And so, because I can tell you, every single one of my clients, whether it's women that I've worked with one-on-one privately, or they've gone through my digital program, the course, they have all been struggling with this for decades from very, very early ages. As a parent, I think one of the, oh, I know this is an emotional episode.
It is.
It's
one of my issues. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I think as a parent, I'm a parent to 2 teenagers. And as a parent, my goal was to not have my kids suffer. I have a girl and a boy. And I have been very clear from the beginning that I was going to teach them how to like their bodies. I was going to teach them how to fuel their bodies. Still, like, enjoy the cookies, enjoy the ice cream. It's fine, but not have this continuous drama with food, because it lasts a lifetime unless you figure out how to stop it. And that's so I don't know if I may, I'll just kind of talk about how I got here.
Yes, please.
And so, I mean, I have done every diet out there. You name it, I've tried it. I've spent tons and tons of money over the years. I've starved myself. I've binged and purged. I have done everything. And when I lost a lot of weight, because here's the thing, right? I was really good at losing weight. I was an expert at losing weight. I could drop all the weight, but then what would happen, as you read in my bio, the diet would end, the program or whatever would end. And then life happened, like got back into normal life, hadn't addressed my issues with food. And so as soon as something happened, as soon as life threw a curveball, I'd start eating again. I'd go back to the sugary treats. I'd go back to the snacks. I'd start eating as a way to kind of comfort and distract from whatever life was throwing my way. And it was in 2013 when I had lost 100 pounds and the diet ended. And I was like, I felt good. I was like, yay, great milestone. Okay, I need to lose 20 more pounds. Like, I still wasn't satisfied. And 2 weeks later, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, everything went out the window. It was December. So I was, all the treats were around. And I ate myself into oblivion. And in the first month of my diagnosis, I gained 30 pounds back.
Oh.
That was the breaking point for me. That was when I said, okay, I need to figure out why I keep eating my feelings. I need to figure out why I keep stress eating and why I feel like I have no control with food. But first I had to first I had to get through cancer. And it was after treatment that I finally decided to focus on changing my habits with food. And I remember I had a doctor at the time, primary care, who kept pushing weight loss surgery. And I said to her, what is that going to do for my problem with food? Like, this is well before I became a life coach. I was like, how is that going to fix my issue with food? How is that going to stop? Like, because that, and I know with the surgery, you literally are, you can only eat a certain amount. But I was like, that urge to eat is going to turn into an urge to do something else. Like, if I don't fix this issue I have with food, what's going to happen? I need to fix that first. And I actually ended up firing her, and finding a new doctor who would be supportive of me fixing my habits with food first and having confidence in myself. And I think this is where the weight loss industry, just like I said earlier, it's backwards and it's really twisted. Create a foundation of self-confidence first. Confidence with yourself, confidence with food. Learn how to trust yourself first and have a healthy relationship with food so you can take a peaceful bite, right? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
Do that first. And then, yeah, if you still want to remove extra weight, that's great. I'm not anti-diet. I'm not anti-weight loss surgery. I'm not anti any of that. What I'm suggesting is lay the new foundation from a place of confidence first, and then decide what you want to do and do it in a way that feels good and in alignment with yourself and your values. Period. I told you I was in the mood to rant.
Hallelujah. Yes. Well, hallelujah, because it is backwards. You
So
know,
backwards.
it's so backwards. I mean, I don't know what the stats are. I mean, I could Google it, right? But it's with when people have had the weight loss surgery, or you go on every program. I've been, I think, on every program myself. I know what to
Yeah.
do. I knew what to do until I hit menopause anyway. And then that was a whole other, you know, animal in itself. But the I think it really feeds into our fears of wanting to go there, this quick fix. Because when you start getting down in there, there's a lot of pain. I mean, look, we both started tearing up, and look, you coach, and I've done so much work to let go. One of the things that you taught me in your program was to let go of the feelings of even having the piece of cake or
Oh,
the chips and salsa. Like, maybe I don't necessarily need to eat the whole bag, but to let go that I didn't have to restrict myself. This isn't an all or nothing thing. And to just pay attention to what's going on, what don't I for myself, like what don't I feel in control of that's happening with the life events.
it's so interesting. First, I was talking to a woman yesterday, and she was sharing about a friend who had the surgery. And I know a lot of people who have had weight loss surgery,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people have had success with it, right? Yeah, absolutely. But one thing she shared to me that I thought was so interesting is that her friend is never satisfied because she can't eat the full hamburger, or she can't eat the full whatever. And so there's this lack of satisfaction. And I was just blown away by that. I'm like, that is so fascinating to me, because even though, you've had this surgery and you've lost weight and you eat a lot less, there's still a link to food and satisfaction and not
Yeah.
being able to finish it. And it just was fascinating to me. And I'm like, we're missing, that's the piece that's missing, is realizing that food does not have to have that much power. You can still enjoy it. Have a piece of cake, have some cookies. I do. I enjoy my food, but I don't go overboard like I used to. And that's the whole key. And I think this is really important too. And this is actually something that I teach a lot of my clients. And I think you were kind of leading to this, but when you do have something, it say, oh, you go ahead and you have two pieces of cake. So what? Instead of it being, oh, why did I do that? Oh, I screwed up again. Oh, I ate too much, which keeps that train, it keeps you in that cycle of feeling really bad about yourself and shame and all that other stuff. So what? So what that I had extra cake or extra whatever? Nip it in the bud. It zaps the drama, because the drama is actually what keeps the cycle going. So I'm
Yeah.
always like, and when I think back to when I was changing this habit for myself, because listen, oh, I could tell you stories of the way I was with food, right? I mean, I remember when we first moved away back in 2000, after we got married, our anniversary was yesterday,
Yay.
and
Happy
we
anniversary.
moved, thank you. And we moved to Connecticut. It was my first time living away from home. And I didn't have a job at the time, and I was really sad. And I would go to the grocery store almost every day and get a little tiny birthday cake and eat it. And I got to the point where my husband was getting concerned, because he'd see the package. So then I started hiding it in the garbage can so we wouldn't find it. I mean, I have stories that would just make your head spin about the way I was with food back in the day. And when I first started to work on this habit and kind of raise awareness and understand more about why I kept gravitating towards food and what this connection was, that is one of the first things I started doing is when I did have a binge or when I did overeat, I would start saying, so what? So what? Tomorrow's a new day. So what? What's next? It zapped that drama that I would continuously kind of sit in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just really powerful way to kind of say, okay, so what? We're practicing here. This is part of self-compassion, which is huge when you want to change your habits with food. It's like, so what? We try again. I'm human. I've had this habit for a really long time. We're going to keep practicing. And that would be enough to change it. And what I found over time, and this is what happens with a lot of my clients, is that the moments in between binges start to grow. Like there's more time in between. Like the one thing that brings me so much joy is when I'm working with a client one-on-one and I'm like, okay, when was your last binge? And they sit there and they're like, I don't remember.
Oh,
And that's when I am like, boom, like you're figuring it out. You're figuring it out. You're creating a whole
that's
new
a mic
relationship.
drop. I don't remember when.
Yeah. I don't remember. It's
Yeah.
so wild.
It's, one of the things that you brought to my awareness that I absorbed and learned because of your supportive one-on-one coaching with myself was that I let go of the shame of eating. And that had been plaguing me for, really powerful since my teens. And in fact, oh my gosh, I just got, an intuitive download. And in middle school, I did eat. I actually did eat quite a bit. Like I can remember thinking I would eat a whole pizza going out. And my stepfather would laugh. Bob, he would laugh. Haha. Wow, you got a great appetite. I love that about you. Right. And then I remember going and seeing my grandmother on my father's side. And she's like, I used to be as thin as you. You better start watching what you're eating. And then going into high school, like I see how long I could go without eating. I mean, I think passed out one time in high school and because I got so lightheaded. And so I think one of my friends knew and would ask, what have you ate today? Let's go eat. Let's go get the lunch. Let's go get a lunch. Let's go get a lunch. So, but it's actually kind of, I think, people trying to be helpful. Like, what do we do with food? We celebrate with food. People pass away. We have food. It's your birthday. It's your anniversary. Somebody's sick in the hospital. You're there visiting. Well, let's go eat.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
It's so wrapped up in our everything that we do.
It is so wrapped up in our culture. And the other thing too, and this is really interesting, how does it become this habit, right? How does food become the go-to? Because it is in many ways, it's an addiction, just like anything else. But the thing about food is we need it to survive. So it's always there, right? It's always front and center. And like I used to laugh because no one ever got arrested from eating a box of Thin Mints,
Right.
or, Girl Scout cookies.
We could only eat the whole box at a time anyway. I mean, who can have one Thin Mint? That's another podcast, right? But
I can remember driving because my daughter was a Girl Scout, and I can remember driving, and that's another story. I actually made my husband put a padlock on the cellar door where we kept all the Girl Scout cookies because I could not control myself with the cookies in the house. But I remember driving with a box of Thin Mints and like laughing because I'm like, well, no one's going to pull me over for eating cookies while I'm driving. Like food is kind of a no-brainer. It's just easy. And it's become a thing. And when I think there's a link to when food was restricted at an early age, whether by yourself or by someone else, right? That's where that what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, that's where the habit starts, or like the toxicity starts, that strained relationship with food begins.
Mhm.
And until that is resolved, it just continues to carry over throughout life. And then you're faced, like you said, you're faced with it everywhere. And it's this feeling of like you can't control yourself.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
times it has felt like I couldn't control myself. When my dad was diagnosed with cancer, terminal cancer,
Yeah.
and I think I was mid 40s, and every night I got out the ice cream, and not just
Mhm.
ice cream, but whatever we had at that time at my parents' house, being his caregiver, and just kind of like, yeah, that was probably some of where I can pinpoint where it really had a big impact, right? Like the weight just
Yeah.
came on, and then menopause happened with my hormones and all of that. And then I think I almost gave up at a point, like, well, it doesn't matter what I'm doing now because nothing's changing. And
Nothing.
I
Yeah.
wasn't overeating. I was like exercising and drinking water and doing all the stuff. And yet my body wouldn't let go. It was holding on to like the pain.
Well, and that's yes, and that's the other piece of this. It's interesting because when I would search, even now, when I'm doing my marketing efforts and whatnot, and I'm searching for, different programs on ending emotional eating and stuff like that, there's nothing that combines emotional eating with body confidence. Like they're almost like two separate things, which is one of the reasons I love Fat to Fierce, if I can say that.
You
Is
sure
because it
can.
is it encompasses both of those pieces, right? Because the part to that is, yes, your body, like our bodies change constantly, and menopause and all the things, right? But creating that confidence, creating that, and not like, let me even back up a second, creating that acceptance, creating that acceptance for your body, and not constantly feeling like you're at war with it, with her, with him, with whoever, not feeling at war with this vessel that we carry with us through this life. That's a huge piece of this too. And that's one of the reasons why focusing on changing the habits with food, understanding your triggers to eat and the different types of foods you eat, is equally as important as creating that acceptance. Even, I mean, I can remember back in the day wanting to do physical harm to my body just to lose weight. And I was always at war with my body, always in a fight mode with it, right? And so learning to accept, like, this is me now. This is what I weigh. This is who I am. And my body has carried me through this life, through decades of ignoring it, right? Does it deserve a little bit of compassion? Does it deserve a little tiny bit of love? Can be a stretch for a lot of people, but does it deserve a little bit of peace? Right.
Well,
So it's the
yes.
two things, it's the food and the body.
So what if somebody, a listener is like, well, what is body confidence?
Hmm. What is body confidence? For me, body confidence is feeling at home in your skin. It really is feeling like I don't I don't want to treat my body like a garbage disposal. I can take up the space that I'm taking up and it's fine. It's really, I think, honoring your body exactly as it is now, and having so much compassion for all of the parts, everything. When you like, and listen, this didn't happen overnight. I didn't suddenly feel confident and comfortable in my skin, in 24 hours. It took practicing, like appreciating everything, my organs, my eyebrows, like the hair, right? It's all of these different parts that keep us moving through this life. And I think when you start to look at all these, it's really it's an amazing machine, right? And all the things
Most
keeps like
definitely. Hmm.
keeps us breathing, all these different parts of us. And so I think like over time, just realizing everything that it does brought a sense of peace. So to answer your question, I think body confidence for me is just not fighting this vessel anymore. Does that make sense?
It does to me because, I love my body now. It's still, you know, newer the last couple of years, right? That acceptance that, gosh, I'm so thankful. I'm healthy.
Mhm.
Um, I love different parts of myself and how much it's done for me, like every day it allows me to go walking or it allows, and this giving it some compassion for what it has gone through and that I've neglected it really for a lot of years, giving it that love and stop picking at myself. And what I've noticed is that that shift must have changed something with how it's showing out, like the podcast Light Up Your Worth. Like, I believe that it's all of our inside work that we're doing
Yeah.
that makes it show. So I can, like yesterday I posted a picture on Facebook because I cut off, like 14 inches of my hair
Mm,
in this year to support my sister having cancer and knowing that she was not going to have any hair. So I thought, well, I'll donate my hair. And then I found as I was posting pictures, I would take a picture. Of course, sometimes it's lighting because I got, wrinkles now and under my eyes is my big thing. And I'm like, okay, you still have to be kind to yourself. Like, yeah, oh my goodness, you are mid 50s. For goodness sake, give yourself a break, right? You're not supposed to look like you're 20 or 30. And
right?
but that acceptance and people, I have found that more people are like, wow, you just look fantastic. Like, and I think it's that inner acceptance, that inner
Mhm.
love that is showing, even though physically I am older.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah, it's, and as I started down uh to have I don't say I lose weight. I say I'm releasing what no longer is needed because I don't
yes.
need it to come. I don't need to find it. It's not like it's lost and found and
Yeah.
and letting it go. And before we started to talk, so I have released 22 excess pounds of pain
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
I had accumulated. And now, like, yeah, there's more, but I feel beautiful now. Like, I feel like I like, I feel better now about myself than I ever did when I look at the pictures and when I'm at a lower weight.
And I
The
think that's
confidence.
that's the confidence.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think too, confidence is it's like just being okay exactly where you are. Even like, and listen, even if you do want to release more of, more of the weight down the road, like that's fine. Like you do you, right? That's the other piece of this too. Like deciding what you want. Like I finally made a decision. At this point, I've maintained 100-pound weight loss for the last 2 years. I am good exactly where I'm at. Like I'm done. I'm good. I'm like, I just want to be where I'm at right now and just be at this place. That's confidence. Not feeling like, oh, I have to still lose and I have to still do that. Da, 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 da. Buying into this story that our society has told us, right? Like, can I just be where I'm at right now and just enjoy this space? Yes, I can. I get to choose that.
Yeah. My dog's getting restless, guys. Sorry. I started following, well, first I found her music and then I found her on Instagram. But do you know who Lizzo is?
Oh, I love Lizzo. Yeah.
I mean, I love her music. and how she dances isn't like how I would dance for myself, but man, she can move. But
Yeah.
her body confidence, and
Yes.
she's a bigger, you know, she's built bigger. She just
Yep.
and she loves herself. And I watched a little bit of it. I think it's on Netflix, her series of like the big girls are coming or something. And
Okay.
it was about her auctioning or not tryout type of process of people to join her dance group when she was going to go tour. And so
Mm.
it walked through these gals. Obviously, you have to be a bigger size for her to even consider you. And then how you walked. And she brought in all these different people to help them with their confidence and loving their bodies. And it was like very powerful. Like, I haven't seen somebody who is about the whole body acceptance so out there. I mean, she has a lingerie line now that she even shows off on her IG account. And I think to myself,
Mm.
yay, Lizzo. Like,
Yeah.
wow, you are changing lives. You are changing lives, Amy, with being able to make these changes.
It's important and it's time. That's I think that's one of the things that most of my clients say when they do, decide they want to work with me one on one is it's time. It's time. Like they're so tired of the ups and the downs and the beating themselves up and the feeling bad and feeling like they have no control around food and no compassion for their bodies and or themselves and fighting with the scale. And it's like none of that has to continue. Now, is it a quick fix? No. But is it worth it? Oh, heck yeah. To be on the other side of that hamster wheel and to just be able to move through this life without feeling disgust for yourself. Just think about the mental weight that we carry when we don't like ourselves and we don't like our bodies and we're constantly complaining and constantly feeling bad. We deserve more.
Oh, that's a lot of weight. That is a lot of emotional weight that ties us down from doing after our dreams, our visions, are
Oh
the
yeah.
lives we really want to live.
Oh, even with me, so going through this journey and creating this business and all this other stuff, for the longest time in the very beginning of my business, I was still tied up in weight. I was still tied up in, oh, if I'm going to do this, I need to lose weight and I need to da 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 da. And it finally dawned on me, and I was like, no, 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 this is whole. I'm you. This whole story is holding me back from sharing this gift with the world. Like with women who want it and who want to change and feel better. Like I'm still like I could see it like a couple of years ago. I was still stuck in the story. So I finally was like, no more. Confidence. Confidence helps us get out of our own way. And it's funny because I often like I used to always say, I just need more willpower. I just need more motivation. No, you actually don't need either of those two things because neither one of them are sustainable. Self-confidence, that's the key to changing all of this.
Yes. And the willpower has been the book Grit. Have you read the book Grit? It talks about when we go to change habits, the power of habit also talks about it, and that you cannot willpower yourself for sustainable change. Both books actually go really deep into it. I mean,
Yeah.
fantastic resources that I love. So I've decided, I'm a listener, I've decided enough. Enough is enough. What is a simple step, couple, like where do you begin when you realize enough's enough?
Hmm. Enough is enough. Oh my goodness, my brain is like, oh, there's this and this and this and this and this. There's so many different like pathways, right? That to take like the next step. I mean, I'll just share that for me, it was the whole so what really like if I did overeat, so what? Move on. One thing that I love to offer to people is start so on the body side of it, like Start identifying the different parts of your body that you appreciate and why. Just add that to your daily regimen, right? Start looking at different things. It doesn't have to be like, for me, I always had a hard time with my midsection. So I didn't start there. I started with my eyes. I started with my hair. I started with my hands, right? I did like just kind of seeing how all these different parts of you function in this world, right? So starting there and having some appreciation. That, I guess, are some of the steps. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Yes. Starting with the so what,
Yeah.
taking a look at the parts of your body that you do love
Yeah, that you do appreciate, right?
and
Like
appreciate. Yeah. If not
I
love, at
appreciate.
least appreciate.
Yeah, I have found in my work that love can be a stretch for a lot of people, because going from really feeling disgust towards your body and really, I mean, I hated my body. I can say that I did back in the day. Going from that to love almost feels like an unrealistic jump. It's too big. It's too big of a shift for a lot of people. So that's where, and I guess that's a great place to start, right? Just recognizing that you don't have to go from where you are right now all the way to love. There's that, consider the ladder, right? There's different steps that you can take to get there. And one of them is that I would say the very first step is, what can you appreciate? Can you appreciate your lungs for helping you breathe? Can you appreciate your fingers for opening up doors? Can you appreciate your teeth for chewing the food that it chews every day? Can you appreciate your eyes for the things that you see? So starting with like that appreciation will help lead to the ultimate, which is the love. Like that's the end game, but there's steps along the way to get there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. One of the things that I did is, and I found it in a Louise Hayes book, but she's who made it one more well known, is I look myself in the eyes in the mirror and just tell myself I love you. And I know some people can't start there because is it
Yeah.
hard? But to look
Yeah.
myself and hold some affirmations about the appreciation of different parts of myself too, or record it and then do it.
You know what is another great question to ask yourself? What else could be true?
Mm.
I wish I could remember who I got that question from. I don't. It might have been from a number of different people that I followed over the years. But what else could be true? Oh my goodness. To this day, even because, okay, here's the other important piece. Just because you start thinking more, like you start thinking more positive, or you start thinking, better thoughts around food in your body and stuff like that, doesn't mean that the old crappy thoughts are going to go away. Okay. That's really, really important to know. We're never going to make them go away because we have human brains, and our brains will continue to produce negative thoughts. Okay. So the real secret is being able to hold space for both. Okay. So being able to recognize that you're like, I still have negative thoughts about myself. They still happen. I've just gotten really good at not believing them. It like recognizing like, okay, yep, thanks for showing up today. Thanks for playing. Great. Okay. This is what we also believe. Right. And so one of the ways to get there is to ask the question, what else could be true? So when you've sat, like when you're sitting there and you've eaten this entire bag of chips and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no self-control. I can't do this. And okay, so what? What else could be true? You just ate too many chips. That's all. What else could be true? There are days when you don't eat that many chips. What else could be true? There are days when you do have things that feel better. What else could be true? You're a human who deserves your own self-compassion. Like, do you see, like you can start like what else could be true, and you're holding space for both of those like trains of thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Super, super powerful. I find myself, like we were sharing before we started recording, is that I was in this really good space, and then what I call like fell off the wagon. Though
Yeah.
my confidence is in a different place. I've let go of the shame, but I fell off the wagon where I was honoring myself. And you said that, like this is a belief that's still there that
Mhm.
I didn't even realize until we just said it. Like, oh, you're right. That's some other hidden belief that is now rotating off. There is no wagon.
There's no wagon. What in reality, what happened is you've gone back to some habits that you had before. You didn't fall off of anything. And when you're continuously thinking, I fell off the wagon, that is going to stir up all the other thoughts because that's a shame thought, right? And it's going to stir up all the other thoughts that feel bad. And it's like, well, what else could be true?
That I've had intense change.
Uh-huh.
Like I've had more change than most people go through in 5 years happen in 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
moved 5 times in 11 months in
Yeah.
3 states.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And I
Hmm.
think I've handled it with a lot of self-compassion and grace. So what I find myself doing right now is that, and this could be a coaching moment, so is that I was like, you know what? Yeah, I did just eat that. Okay. Well, that's just like I wasn't having shame on it. I wasn't
Hmm.
feeling shameful. But what I started to ask myself is, you know, maybe it's the next morning or the next day, like, what was I feeling?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was I feeling? And feeling like, because I've been learning, one of my journeys is I'd learned very young to repress what I was feeling, to be a good girl, to behave. The perfectionist stuff has been my big, um, some of the stuff I'm working through and coming from ancestral and generational pass down of being perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like perfection. I like things to not be so messy. And it's been coming up quite a bit. And so allowing myself to slowly unwind, what am I repressing? What am I feeling? And I wasn't able to like articulate what it was.
Hmm.
And now I've realized that, okay, I know I was obviously like repressing it. And some people don't do it with food, they might do it with drugs or alcohol or shopping or
Oh,
groceries, but
gambling. Sure.
allowing like to feel that, you moved 5 times, 3 states. Just saying that out loud to myself, I was like, man, I'm kind of like a superhero that I've
Yes.
done that
And
and
here's
maintained all this stuff.
exactly. And here's the interesting question too. Like, does the food help?
At moments, it did. It brought like, okay, like that tasted really good. Like I actually enjoyed it.
Hmm.
That's what I was craving. Like I was craving sugar, or then I would be craving the salt. It was more salty stuff, which you go into in the program. The whole,
Yeah,
is it
yeah, yeah.
sugar or is it salt? Like
Yeah.
what am I actually binging on? Or, you know, the tortilla chip bag is gone. I went for a couple chips and now the whole bag is gone. What happened? Are the bags smaller? I mean,
It's so telling. It's so interesting to look at the different types of foods that we gravitate towards and what emotions they are helping to avoid, right?
yeah, you brought that awareness to me, trying to
Mhm.
figure out and how it's linked to different emotions and,
Yeah.
super powerful to understand that.
It's fascinating, right? Like I always craved sweets because to me, it felt like a warm hug, like a warm brownie was like a warm hug, and it was comforting and all that kind of stuff. I tend to find like the salty, crunchy things are kind of like more towards like anger and frustration. It's just very fascinating.
Yeah. And that was probably it, right? I was frustrated. Yep. So now that I didn't, you know, switched gears and realized that, wow, maybe you're craving all that salt because you're a little dehydrated.
Yeah.
Like, am I drinking my water? Oh no.
When you
I
can
like some
reflect,
relief.
when you like it's just even taking that few moments to reflect, like you asked yourself, like what was I feeling? What am I feeling? What's going on here? Those are powerful moments where you get those answers for yourself and can then be like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. All right, well, what would I like to do different? What would I like to change? What would I like to do tomorrow? Whatever, the next time.
Yeah.
Then you create a plan for yourself.
Right. And
Yeah.
how is it that, uh, you know, it's New Year's, and so, you may not like your clothes, like you may not look how you feel like how you look. And so you're like, well, I'm going to go buy new clothes when I've lost these 10 pounds, these 20, these
Mm-hmm.
40, these 50,
Mm-hmm.
80, right? And in the meantime, you don't feel good about
Mm-hmm.
how you're even showing up, how you're holding yourself. And, you know, I I remember feeling that way because I didn't want to go spend the money for the clothes that I really wanted. But then I realized that I could. My sister is so brilliant. She's like, you know, there's a lot of places you can go get really nice clothes that
Yes.
you don't have to go pay $200 for a pair of jeans. You can go get those same jeans over like like Pluto's Closet or Thread Up online
Yeah,
and Savers or thrift. There's in thrifting, you can get so much beautiful stuff like that,
absolutely.
like, and you feel good. And it starts to, I think it really does come. It's the whole inside stuff, how we're talking to yourself. There's nothing like, you know, walking out, I love lipstick, putting on some lipstick and then you're like, you feel good. And it just kind of starts you out for myself the day. And have you seen that with the people that you're working with? And
Oh, well, one of the things that we do is the closet detox, right? Where it's like, what are you holding on to that no longer fits? I was the queen of buying clothes that were too small to use as motivation, to lose weight and get into them.
oh
It's like
my
that never
gosh.
works and it does nothing but make you feel bad, right? So it's like, yeah, we get rid of the things that no longer fit, either physically or even just, certain clothes that you'll never wear again, no matter what because it just doesn't fit who you're becoming, right? And getting rid of the things that are taking up space that no longer serve you and going out and like you said buying at least one thing, two things, something that you feel fabulous in today because there's like you don't deserve the punishment of not having clothes you feel good in because you're not at this ideal whatever place that you want to be physically. No, guess what? You deserve to have nice things to wear right now, exactly where you're at. And so just going out and buying even just one thing. And so I found with my clients, I just had one the other day actually. She went out and she bought new clothes and she was dreading it, but she did it and she bought things that she feels fabulous in. And I think that's kind of the key. It's like we all deserve that, no matter what we weigh, no matter what size, no matter what. We deserve to have to adorn our bodies. Again, it's about this vessel, right? We deserve to wear clothes that we feel good in.
Yeah. Yeah. I did something too, was that I felt like on those days was that I met up with somebody who actually helped me understand my body type with
Mm,
clothes versus what's
okay.
on the racks, right? So that I
Yeah.
could find something and colors, very specific colors, like within the blues or the burgundies. Like this is why you see me in the same frequently the same clothes, because I will, or the same colors, I should say, is because I did that. And it wasn't like life changing, breaking the bank to
Yeah.
to do that, because we can all see it. Like when you take a picture and you're wearing something, like you just feel better. Like having I like to go, there's all kinds of sales around the holidays, like just having a new bra.
Yes.
Man, no underwear, like undergarments
Yes. Yes. It's all
that
part of
fit.
yeah, that fit. Exactly. It's all part of, and that is part of, becoming more comfortable in your skin, adorning your body in clothing that feels good, that fits, and that you feel comfortable in. Such an important part of this too.
Wow. I mean, you've just have shared so many beautiful tips, Amy. I mean, I hope that all my listeners will hear the emotion that's been around this topic, and that whether you have excess weight or maybe you're on that lower dip of closer to your ideal but not happy, like it's such a
Yeah.
struggle, that they will take your tips or reach out. And I wanted to share, how can they, what type of programs do you have, Amy, and how can people reach out to you?
Yeah. So if you're on Facebook, you can join the Facebook group. It's the Fat to Fierce Facebook group. That's a free group for for any woman who wants to join and get tidbits of all of this goodness. I do have a workshop that I'm running right now, which is the 3 steps to stop stress eating. And we're going to have the link for that. And it's $17. So it's not going to break the bank, right? Where I'm sharing like the 3 steps to change the habits with food and really find ways to manage and reduce stress that don't result in running to the kitchen or through the drive-through and things like that. And so doing that workshop can be really helpful. And then there's the digital program. And of course, there's always one-on-one coaching, private coaching with me. And the best way to do that is to email me at amy@amyenglishcc.com and set up a call. Those slots are more limited, the one-on-one coaching. And I always, like to jump on the phone with people first, just to make sure that will be a good fit. But yeah, those are the ways to work with me.
Oh, I highly recommend her work. It really has shifted how I view myself in eliminating the shame. And as I've been on this journey, I feel so much better about myself. So thank
Mm,
you, Amy,
you're
for
so
all of the
welcome. I
work
love
that
that.
you've done with me and sharing, the wealth of your experiences. And highly encourage everybody to reach out. I haven't will include everything in the show notes too. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.
If you enjoyed this Light Up Your Worth episode, be sure to share with a soulful friend who needs to hear this message. Thanks so much for listening and being part of the Light Up Your Worth community. My heart is full of gratitude for you. You are my inspiration to shine the light of spiritual, heart-centered women. Now go out there and shine your own light. Sending you sunshine.